The colony of Arivos 9 was never meant to be a battlefield. It was built for mining iron and silicate under the black storms of the frontier world. But now the refineries burned like pyres across the horizon, and the ash storms carried the sound of war. Captain Mira Solon stood in the shattered command center, smoke curling through broken glass and flickering lights. A single wall screen still worked, showing the colony's perimeter in fading blue. Most of it was gone, swallowed by advancing red markers. "Report," she said. Sergeant Imani Doran, her one-armed engineer, leaned over a cracked console. "Northern shields are down. Power grids fractured in 3 sectors. Reactors losing coolant. At this rate, 15 hours before melt." "15's enough." Mira adjusted her holster. "We only need 12. Lieutenant Roan Hale, young, soot-streaked, and restless, turned sharply. 12 hours for what, Captain? We can't hold against this. Not with 100 men and rifles that jam in the dust." Myra's eyes met his. They were calm, too calm for the chaos around them. "Then we make the dust work for us." He started to argue, but she was already moving. Outside, the colony lay under an amber haze. Twisted metal and scorched ground stretched toward the jagged ridges. The air reeked of ozone and burning fuel. Somewhere beyond the storm, the dominion of Vectal moved, precise, disciplined, merciless. Through the storm's edge, alien carriers broke the clouds, descending like iron moths. Their engines hummed with artificial harmony, nothing wasted, nothing emotional. Mira watched them descend, and for a moment, she almost admired the perfection. Almost. "Imani," she said into her comm. "Ready the ore drills. We're turning them into rail cannons." There was a short laugh through static. "Never thought I'd use mining equipment to shoot a warship, Captain." "Neither did they. Let's make it work." Deep beneath the colony, civilians crowded the old ore tunnels. They huddled against walls, whispering prayers to stars they could no longer see. Mira passed them on her way to the engineering deck, faces streaked with dust and fear. A small child clutched a cracked oxygen mask and looked up at her. "Are we going to lose, Captain?" Mira knelt beside her. "Not today." The lie was soft, but necessary. The truth would crush morale faster than enemy fire. In orbit above, Arch-strategist Kralvan watched the battle unfold through his command sphere. Dozens of holograms projected the human outpost, irregular defense lines, random skirmish points, unpredictable counterattacks. To him, it looked like chaos. He tapped one claw against the display. They scatter when pressured, yet they reform moments later. No coordination. No logic. His aide, a smaller Vectal officer, bowed. "Shall we deploy full ground assault?" Kralvan's eyes narrowed. "Not yet. I want to see how long Desperation sustains them." He turned from the screen, his tail flicking once. "Log every maneuver. We will extract the pattern." But there was no pattern to find. By nightfall, the human outpost had transformed. Floodlights lined the ridges. Mining claws became launchers. Magnetic rails pulsed with improvised energy coils. Mira walked among her people, checking positions, lending a word here and there, not command, but presence. Roan jogged to her side, carrying a cracked datapad. "Captain, the ore drills are ready. But if we fire, the recoil will tear the foundations apart." She nodded. "Then we don't miss." He hesitated. "You sound like you believe we can win this." "Belief doesn't stop bullets, Lieutenant. Strategy does. Hope just keeps you standing while you make it work." He smiled faintly. "That almost sounds optimistic." "Don't spread rumors." The first Dominion dropships broke atmosphere an hour later. Their descent burned through the storm clouds, red thrusters slicing the sky. The ground shuddered. Myra's comm crackled with overlapping reports. "Multiple contacts, northwest quadrant. Plasma mortars inbound. Shield generators offline." "Hold your fire," Mira ordered. "Wait for my mark." The alien formation advanced with flawless rhythm, machine-guided infantry encased in glimmering armor, stepping through fire and debris without pause. Myra's grip tightened on her rifle. Now! The ore drills roared. Slugs the size of trucks tore from magnetic rails, cutting through the haze. The first struck a Dominion dropship mid-descent. It split open, spilling metallic shards and burning troops into the ravine. The humans cheered, brief and raw. Mira raised a hand. Focus! They'll adapt fast. And they did. Within minutes, counterfire rained down, plasma strikes carving through the outer trenches. Roan's squad was thrown backward in the blast. Roan, report. I'm fine, he coughed, crawling from the wreckage. But half the line's gone. Then the other half fires twice as hard. Hours passed like minutes. Every position gained was lost again. Every victory demanded blood. The humans fought in silence now, no more cheering, just grim efficiency. In the command deck, the heat grew unbearable. Mira leaned over the holomap as it flickered red. Imani's voice came through faintly. That last rail burst drained the grid. We'll need to shut down life support to recharge. Do it. You sure, Captain? That means. I said do it. The lights dimmed. The air turned heavy. They fought in the dark. From orbit, Kralven observed the chaos below. Still resisting, he murmured. Remarkable. The aide hesitated. Shall I deploy another fleet strategist? He considered, tapping the holo display again. No. Let them exhaust themselves. When they fall, I want the last of them to understand the futility of defiance. On the surface, Mira stepped through the ruined trenches, dust swirling around her boots. She looked out toward the dark horizon. The Dominion ships were regrouping, ready for another strike. Imani limped beside her, smoke rising from her mechanical arm. We can't hold another wave, Captain. I know. So what now? Myra's eyes stayed on the horizon. The crashed Dominion cruiser from earlier burned faintly, a broken shape half buried in sand and iron. Inspiration flickered. No, she said quietly. We start thinking like them. And then we do what they never will. Roan approached, dragging a wounded soldier. Evacuation tunnels are ready. If we're pulling back, we need to move. We're not pulling back, Mira replied. We're baiting them. His face hardened. Baiting them with what? Us? With everything. As the second night fell, the storms thickened again, a black wall swallowing the stars. Mira stood before the shattered viewport of command, her reflection pale in the lightning flashes. Behind her, Roan patched the comms array back online. Captain, signal detected. A new fleet entering orbit. She turned. Ours? He shook his head slowly. Dominion reinforcements. 20 ships, maybe more. For a long moment, no one spoke. Only the wind moaned through the cracks. Then Mira smiled, small and sharp. Desperation, she whispered. Good. That means we're exactly where we fight best. The storm swallowed her voice as the screen faded to static. The storm had not stopped since the first bombardment. It scraped across Arrivo's 9 like a living thing, grinding ash into every wound and circuit. Inside the command center, Mira Solon traced her gloved finger across a cracked map table. The colony had been reduced to 6 defensive zones, 3 of them already under Dominion control. Imani, what's left of the surface grid? The engineer's voice came through, rasped and metallic from her damaged vocal implant. Half our generators are slag. I can route the rest through the mining conduits, but they'll burn out in 6 hours. 6 is enough, Mira said. She always said that. It kept people moving. Roan Hill entered, carrying a battered datapad and a canteen. His uniform was streaked with carbon and blood that wasn't his. Civilians are stable in the tunnels, but morale's hanging by a thread. We're running out of food and oxygen filters. Mira accepted the water, took one sip, and handed it back. They'll hold if we do. Fear spreads faster than plasma. Contain it. He gave her a weary look. Contain it with what, ma'am? Inspiration? With proof that we're not dead yet. Far above, aboard the Dominion's edge, Arch-Strategist Kralvin stood before a holographic projection of the battlefield. The Vectal commander's scales glowed faintly in the dim light, each movement deliberate, economical. Human casualties exceed 70%, his aide reported. Their surface command is still transmitting orders, but patterns remain erratic. Kralvin narrowed his eyes. Erratic? Yes, strategist. They alter formations mid-combat, redirect resources without sequence. Our predictive algorithms can't maintain accuracy beyond 2 minutes. Kralvin studied the pulsing points of resistance. To him, the display looked like the scattered remains of a dying species refusing to accept mathematics. Illogical, he muttered. No structure, no efficiency. Yet they endure. His tail lashed once, a rare display of irritation. Increase pressure. Deploy precision teams to the surface. I want their leader alive. The next assault came at dawn, or what passed for dawn under the sulfur sky. The Dominion's elite units descended in silver pods that cut through the storm like blades. They landed deep within the colony, bypassing the outer defenses entirely. The first explosion ripped through the storage district. Mira and Roan sprinted toward the impact zone, plasma rifles drawn. The streets were filled with haze, debris glowing like coals. Contact left! Roan shouted. A Vectal trooper emerged from the smoke, armor gleaming with bioluminescent lines. Mira fired first, 3 clean bursts to the chest plate. The trooper staggered, hissed, then collapsed. More followed. The fighting turned brutal and close. Mira ducked behind a ruined hauler, reloaded, and yelled into her comm. Imani, light up grid 2! The ground trembled as jury-rigged plasma mines detonated beneath the attackers. Shards of molten ore tore through armor and flesh alike. Roan exhaled shakily. That's one hell of a welcome. Not enough, Mira said, glancing at the burning horizon. They'll adapt again. She led the survivors back toward the central lift. They descended into the tunnels, where the air was thin and the lights flickered with the rhythm of dying machines. Down below, the civilians waited. Families, miners, mechanics, anyone who could still hold a tool. The fear in their eyes was sharper than hunger. Mira climbed onto a crate, removing her helmet. They think this place will fall before nightfall, she began. Maybe they're right. But I need you to understand something. Every hour we stand, we rewrite what they think humans are. They believe desperation means defeat. Let's prove them wrong. Silence followed. Then someone began to clap, one, then another, until the tunnel echoed with the sound. It wasn't cheering. It was defiance. Roan watched from the edge of the crowd. When she stepped down, he leaned closer. They'll follow you anywhere. I just need them to follow me for 12 more hours. Later, in the half-lit engineering bay, Mira and Imani studied the mining reactor's schematic projected across the wall. Its energy output was enormous, enough to vaporize the colony if overloaded. If we detonate the core while Kralvin's fleet is in low orbit, Imani said quietly, we'll take them with us. Mira didn't respond right away. She ran her hand along the cracked metal casing, feeling the faint hum beneath. We'll need to draw his flagship closer. Make him think we've got something worth capturing. Roan looked between them. You're talking about baiting a warship with a colony full of civilians. I'm talking about ending this, Mira said. If we run, they chase us to the next world. If we stand, they bleed for it. Imani nodded slowly. We'll have to reroute the plasma feeds manually. Someone's got to be in the core when it blows. Roan's jaw tightened. You can't mean. Not yet, Mira cut in. We'll cross that bridge when it burns. Meanwhile, aboard the Dominion's edge, Kralvin watched human movements shift again. His claws clicked against the control sphere. They've fortified the reactor sector. That's their last stronghold. His aide bowed. Do we strike directly? Yes. But not with artillery. I will lead the ground assault. Their commander must see who breaks her. The aide hesitated. Strategist, your presence on the surface is the final move, Kralvin finished. Once she understands futility from my own hand, the human species will never again raise its head. By nightfall, the colony was silent. The storm had calmed, replaced by an electric stillness before the next onslaught. Mira stood on the balcony of the control spire, watching the stars blink through the haze. She could see faint glimmers, the enemy fleet aligning for descent. Roan approached quietly. "Orders, Captain? Tell the engineers to open the north approach. Make it look weak. That's where they'll land." He frowned. "That exposes the civilians. They won't target civilians if they think that's where I'm hiding." Roan studied her face. "And if they do?" Myra's voice dropped. "Then they'll wish they hadn't." The ground shook again as the Dominion troops descended. This time, the assault came from every direction, coordinated, overwhelming. Myra's forces fell back toward the reactor complex, firing until their weapons overheated. Imani's voice crackled over the channel. "Captain, core relays are online. We can trigger the overload sequence whenever you say." "Not yet. Wait for the flagship." Through the storm, Mira saw it, a black silhouette descending through the clouds, immense and silent. The Dominion's edge glowed with controlled fury, its energy shields rippling in blue arcs. Roan looked up in disbelief. "He's actually coming down." "Good," Mira said. "That means he's confident." Kralvin's voice cut through the open comms, deep and measured. "Human Commander, your resistance ends now. Surrender your colony and your people will be spared." Mira keyed the transmitter. "You've been studying us, haven't you? Tell me, did your numbers predict you'd need mercy?" A long pause. Then Kralvin's reply, cold as the void. "No calculation accounts for arrogance." "Good," she said softly. "Then you won't see this coming." The battle intensified. Plasma fire turned the sky white. Human soldiers fought from the shadows, striking and vanishing, using tunnels, collapsed shafts, even reactor conduits. Kralvin's formation began to fracture, not from defeat, but from confusion. Imani called out over the comms, urgency in her tone. "The core's overloading faster than expected. If we don't stabilize it, we'll blow before the flagship's in range." "Then we stabilize it manually," Mira said. Roan turned toward her, understanding dawning in his eyes. "You mean someone has to go in there?" She didn't answer immediately. Outside, lightning flared against the ship's hull, painting the battlefield in stark blue light. Finally, she met his gaze. "When desperation becomes the plan, Lieutenant, we stop being prey." The reactor alarms began to wail, and Erivos 9 trembled under their feet. The air inside the mining core shimmered with heat and radiation. Each pulse from the overloaded reactor sent a low hum through the steel walls, like the heartbeat of a dying world. Captain Mira Solin adjusted her helmet seal and stepped into the containment chamber. The temperature warning flared crimson across her visor, but she didn't look away from the control panel ahead. "Imani status?" The engineer's voice came through, faint and static-laced. "Stabilizers are failing. You've got 10 minutes before containment collapses. After that, we're all atoms." "Copy." Myra's tone was steady, almost calm. "Begin uplink to the surface defense grid. I'll sync the core manually." "Captain, you can't." "Do it, Imani." Silence. Then a heavy sigh. "Yes, ma'am." Mira looked around the reactor chamber, a cathedral of metal and fire. Every surface glowed orange, molten veins of energy snaking through conduits and pipes. This was the heart of Erivos 9, and she was about to turn it into a bomb. Outside, on the blackened surface, Lieutenant Roan Hale led the last squad through the collapsed tunnels toward the Dominion landing zone. The storm had calmed, but the air was thick with ash and the metallic stench of plasma burns. "Keep low," he whispered. "Their scanners are sweeping the ridge." He glanced up. The Dominion flagship, Dominion's Edge, loomed above the colony like a floating continent. Its underside opened, revealing ranks of weapon ports glowing with lethal precision. One of his soldiers, a medic named Soren, muttered, "How are we supposed to fight that?" Roan checked his rifle's charge, eyes hard. "We're not fighting it. We're baiting it closer. The ground trembled again, not from enemy fire, but from within. A low vibration rippled through the dust. Roan recognized it instantly. She's starting the overload. In orbit, Arch-Strategist Kralven stood before a tactical display, eyes fixed on the rising energy readings from the colony below. Strange, he murmured. The human reactor signatures are spiking beyond containment. Are they attempting a last stand? His aide hesitated. Possibly an error in their primitive systems? Kralven's claws tapped the command console. No. Not error. Intent. She's trying to draw me in. Then should we retreat? The strategist turned, eyes narrowing. Retreat? Against a dying species? No. I will descend personally. End her arrogance myself. He ordered the flagship's descent. The massive vessel broke atmosphere, cutting through storm clouds in silence, its dark hull reflecting the lightning below. Mira worked quickly, rerouting the plasma conduits through the reactor's primary output. Her gloves were scorched, her breath fogging the visor. Each command she entered caused sparks to leap across the panel. Imani's voice returned, louder now. Captain, the flagship's lowering orbit. It's entering range. Perfect, Mira replied. Keep feeding it telemetry. Make it think we're losing control. A sudden burst of static. Roan's squad reports heavy movement in the east corridors. Dominion troops are converging. Tell them to hold the line. I just need 5 more minutes. The sound of boots echoed behind her. Roan, covered in soot, carrying a damaged transmitter pack. You're supposed to be topside, Mira said without turning. Not leaving you down here alone. Roan. He set the pack down beside her. You'll need this to amplify the charge pulse. Otherwise the blast won't reach orbit. She looked at him, frustration flickering beneath the helmet glass. You could have been killed. He grinned faintly. You taught me that's part of the job. The floor shook violently. The ceiling above them cracked as debris rained down. The Dominion strike team had breached the outer corridor. Plasma bolts hissed through the entry hatch. Mira ducked behind the console, fired 2 quick bursts, dropping the first intruder. Roan threw a flash charge, blinding the rest. Seal that hatch, she shouted. He slammed the emergency lock. The heavy door sealed with a shriek of metal. The pressure in the chamber rose, and the hum of the core deepened into a throbbing growl. Imani's voice came through again. Reactor is past critical threshold. Once it hits 95%, the magnetic field collapses. After that. I know, Mira interrupted. I'll trigger it manually. Roan turned toward her, realizing. You're staying. Someone has to time the pulse. Then I'll do it. She met his eyes. You can't. You need to lead the evac and broadcast the signal to the Concorde. They have to know what happened here. Mira. That's an order. Her voice was steady, but there was a flicker of something else, something heavy and human. Go, Roan. Make it mean something. He hesitated only a second, then saluted sharply. For what it's worth, ma'am, they'll never forget you. Make sure they don't. He turned and disappeared through the maintenance corridor as the core flared behind her. In orbit, Kralven's flagship hovered directly above the colony. Sensors lit up with unstable readings. Energy spike accelerating, his aide reported. We're entering magnetic interference. Shields fluctuating. Kralven studied the readings, lips curling. So this is your grand strategy, human? To burn yourself alive for spite? He activated the comm frequency. Commander Solon, your resistance is admirable but futile. You have one chance to surrender before I reduce your world to ash. Mira looked up at the ceiling as if she could see him through the storm. She keyed her comm. You've been trying to understand us, haven't you, strategist? His tone was cold. I seek to quantify your defiance. Then write this down, she said. Desperation isn't fear. It's evolution. The line went silent. The core breached 90%. Warning klaxons screamed. The energy coils burst in white light, painting Myra's armor in fire. She activated the final sequence, fingers trembling but precise. Imani's voice returned, breaking through static. Captain, everyone's clear. Say the word. Mira took a long breath. Good work, Sergeant. You did it. Captain. Take care of them. She placed her palm against the main control crystal. The interface recognized her biometric signature, locking her in as the final operator. Tell the galaxy, she whispered, that Desperation doesn't die quietly. She pressed the trigger. From orbit, the explosion looked like a sunrise tearing through darkness. The mining core erupted with a surge of white plasma, imploding first, then expanding outward in a burst that shattered the flagship's shields. The Dominion's edge began to fold in on itself as gravity waves crushed its hull. Kralvin's final moments were spent staring at the impossible, a dying colony destroying the apex of Dominion engineering. No logic predicts this, he whispered before the light consumed him. Days later, a Concord recovery team descended upon the scorched remains of Arivos 9. The surface was glassed, the colony erased. Only fragments of wreckage and blackened helmets remained. In the wreckage of the old Comare, a recording survived, Myra's last transmission. A young Concord officer played it aloud. Her voice echoed through static. They call us desperate. They call us reckless. But when the void closes around us, we adapt. We endure. And when there's nothing left, we build victory out of it. The officer stood in silence, staring out at the ruined horizon. She did it, he said softly. The commander beside him nodded. No. They did. Across the galaxy, the story spread, of the small, doomed colony that destroyed a fleet. Of a captain who turned extinction into triumph. The Concord began to reconsider humanity, not as fragile newcomers, but as something else entirely. A message circulated through the networks of soldiers and scholars, whispered in alien tongues. Beware the species that fights hardest when it has nothing left to lose. And in that silence between worlds, where ashes drifted like stars, humanity's legend began.